Hi, I'm Yolanda and welcome to Speak On. Today I'm joined by model and skincare writer Rafika, actress and singer Chrissy, blogger Nicole, and model, writer and mental health advocate Lucy. Right, today our discussion is going to take a more serious turn. We're going to talk about the issues around the trending hashtag #MeToo, which came to light last year. Loads of news stories broke, and that has kind of led to what can only be described as a watershed moment, or global watershed moment, in fact, for women and men who have been victims of any kind of sexual abuse and inappropriate behaviour as well. This led to, I think, hundreds of thousands, possibly more, women coming out and using the hashtag #MeToo to talk about their experiences. And it could range from just something like some unsolicited comments to quite serious abuse. One of the things that it highlighted was how commonplace this type of behaviour is, but also the fact that so many people have been silenced and didn't feel like they could come forward and talk about it. So today we're going to continue this conversation because it isn't a conversation that should go away, and we're going to talk about our own #MeToo moments. So I'll start to kick everything off. So my #MeToo moment happened, well, one of them, because frankly this kind of shit happens all the time, happened last year when I was on my way home near my house, and I was walking along and someone smacked my bum, but it was so aggressive and so hard that they lifted up my whole skirt and basically their hand went up my skirt. And because it was crowded, I couldn't see who it was. There were loads of guys around, and then I felt scared, and I was near my house, but then I took a taxi literally one street over to my house because I was too afraid to walk because I didn't know if this person was going to follow me. So then that's one of those moments. I mean, there have been less serious moments, just also unsolicited dick pics also kind of falls into this as well. So yeah, so I don't know who wants to share one of their #MeToo moments.
I'll go. Yes. So it's more sort of like a catcalling / harassment moment as opposed to actual sexual harassment. But basically, I was leaving the station. This was a couple of years ago, so I would have been about 18. Leaving the station to go home, and there was a car parked up, and the guy started talking to me. I pretended I couldn't hear him. I had my headphones in, so for all he knew, I couldn't hear him. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to cross the bridge at the station and he'll be none the wiser. Little did I know he knew the area, so he just drove around and met me on the other side of the bridge. And he started talking to me, he's like, I'm just trying to talk to you, blah, 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 blah. And I was so petrified, I literally ran home. Because I was like, I'm just trying to walk home, I don't know what you want from me, I don't want to talk to you. Whether you're giving me a compliment or not, it's late and I'm young. So that was kind of a moment that was really wow, people are really resilient to rejection.
Yeah, I think that's the awful thing. Even if you make it so obvious that you're not remotely interested in even engaging in conversation with someone, why would you then continue to pursue that person to the point where, like you said, that's when you feel scared, that's when you suddenly feel vulnerable, because you're like, when is this person going to stop? Because I've already made it really clear I don't want to speak to them. And that happens multiple times a day, you know? And even, like you say, even from things like catcalling to actually people touching you to something even more serious. It happens all the time. It's so scary. It's awful. And I don't know, I definitely think speaking about it can help raise awareness, but in terms of actually stopping it from happening, I don't know how you go about that.
Yeah, so there's definitely there's a much bigger issue here. Yeah. Talking about rejection, I remember once saying to someone, no, I don't want to talk to you, go out with you, and they pushed me over a table. Yeah. Legitimately pushed me over a table with loads of glasses on it and everything. Joking. Luckily someone caught me, so I didn't end up basically getting cut on the glass and stuff. So yeah, people are really...
Where does that thought come from where it's like, right, this person is rejecting me? Why do you then feel like, no, this person owes me that, they owe me something, but you don't even know them?
It's a sense of entitlement, which is really annoying because men are not entitled to anything. And it ties into with the rape allegations and everything. A lot of people say, oh, it's how a woman dresses. In society, we should teach women not to dress a certain way, but boys not to harass girls that dress the way that they want to dress. The whole entitlement thing it baffles me.
Yeah, and I suppose a lot of what happened with this whole Me Too was about people abusing their power, basically. So it could be, for example, someone that owns a model agency inappropriately hitting on all their clients and things like that, and thinking it's okay, or just kind of casually glossing over it. And obviously in the case of all the stories that have come out, it's usually people that run a company who are protected by layers and layers of money and everything else, and people being frightened of their careers and stuff, which is not on at all.
And it is so commonplace. I remember I was 17, I was still in performing arts school, and this producer who I met in the industry invited me to a premiere with him, and we went for dinner afterwards. And he was in no way affiliated with me. I had no kind of like contract with him or anything like that. But every single industry person I met that night, he was making sure they went through him so that I would always have to speak to him. And about 2 years ago, I saw in the newspaper that he was being arrested because he had raped a bunch of young women in exactly this same situation. I just blocked him off everything, never spoken to him again because he spoke to me very inappropriately on the evening. But yeah, it could have been so much worse. And it does happen all the time.
That's terrifying. Yeah, that's really scary. So in terms of some of the things that you've told me, is this something that have you actually told other people about it, or were they things that, because for example, the one where I got hit on the bum, I didn't tell my boyfriend about it. I kind of mentioned it to him, but after I said, I'm coming home and I'm rushing home, but I didn't actually say why. I just didn't talk about it because it's so commonplace. Are they things that you actually mention to other people, or you bring them up for the first time now, or?
I think things like catcalling, it sounds awful, but I don't even register it. Happens so often.
Every day, doesn't it?
You don't even register it as for what it is, which is sexual harassment. You don't even think about it because it just happens constantly. And if you ever do call someone on it, the abuse that you get back, it's almost not worth it.
I feel like a lot of confusion comes down to there's a stark difference between you almost like checking someone out or like giving someone a compliment and catcalling someone. And I think that's where some of the problems arise, because when I talk about catcalling, I always make it very clear, well, no, it was just an objectification of me. And, you know, I made it clear that I wasn't interested in, never in a horrible way. I never reject people in a rude way because I believe in being a polite person. So you've taken that as weakness and you've decided to pursue anyway. And that for me is harassment. So, yeah.
And then when you've, direct this at Chrissy, so whenever you may have had any of these moments and you've told people, how did they react? So for example, it's also the difference between if you told a woman, how did she react? And if you told a guy, how did he react?
But they're both the same, really. They both said you need to tell somebody. I mean, I've had situations in the past, but it can be even just subtle things, like you could be talking to a colleague at work or whatever, and they'll just literally be looking at your tits the whole time, and you feel like they're not actually saying anything, they're being really polite. How can you pull them up on it? But it just really, it gets to you. It's just little, it could be anything on the train, working with a colleague. I've had like really weird remarks before from men, and I don't know where to go. Again, with people that have a bit of power in the limelight and stuff like that, and I can't say anything because they've got away with it for so long, and I've just had to say something because that is just in my character. I can't hide or, you know, shy it away. I have to say how I feel. So,
and in your industry, because obviously you're a singer, you know, you're in a band, you're a West End performer, and everything else. Have you ever felt like your career might be at risk of talking about these things? Or?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. I mean, when you're younger as well, working with a lot of high-profile people and stuff, you're worried. You're still trying to break into the career yourself. So I do think there is that element there. But my character, if something got too far, I would have to say I'd put it at risk. I couldn't. I mean, I don't know how I would be in that situation. It could be a completely different situation when you're in it. But I think now I wouldn't allow it.
In some cases you say it because it's worth being said. Sometimes it's so commonplace, you don't necessarily say it because you're just so used to it.
But you're just so annoyed with it.
Yeah. It's like when it sticks, sometimes it just sticks with you as well. It's like that just really,
Yeah, it's like it's in your mind the whole day. Like it could just be the most subtle thing, but you know what they're doing.
Yes.
And you think, how can you actually do that? You work with me, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah. Okay, cool.
It is a power thing.
Yeah, and that's quite disturbing, isn't it? And I suppose that was the case for many of these people that have come forward now. I mean, I love that so many people have come forward and it's become this big conversation. I mean, it always shocks me that people are so surprised with how many people that have come forward, but I suppose it's the privilege of potentially, I suppose, with some guys, privilege of being a guy, but obviously we've also seen these other allegations coming out with around like Kevin Spacey and stuff like that. It's slightly scary as well because none of these things in media land, everybody knew. Yeah, exactly.
I had a male friend the other day actually say he was so surprised that, you know, these women don't come forward straight away, and I thought, why are you surprised? Yeah. Like the amount of backlash that women get, like even from other women. There was who's that footballer who was arrested for rape allegations this year for a young girl in hospital. I mean, not hospital, in a hotel, sorry. Exactly, that was awful. There was a few. And I saw this girl that I know on Facebook saying, oh, silly little slag. She obviously knew it's going to happen. You don't go back to a hotel room. And it's like, how can you possibly think that? Like, she's come forward and had the bravery to speak about this awful thing that's happened to her, and you still get the backlash of, what were you wearing? Were you drunk at the time? Oh, are you sure you didn't just want to sell a story? Like,
Well, this is it.
it's just, I can't comprehend it. And then people wonder why more women don't come forward and speak about it.
Yeah, I suppose the problem is you go forward about it, you come forward about it, sorry, and automatically you're not believed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, this is
automatically the kind of the onus
So
comes
much
on you.
victim blaming.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, and also I found that even when you're talking about the stories, I remember when I initially talked about that story to someone else, and I said, I talked about what I was wearing, and I was like, why? Why does it matter? I was like, I could have been wearing my underwear. It doesn't bloody matter, does it? Yeah. No one should be touching me. Yeah.
It's like that Netflix show I was binge watching last night. She's Got to Have it.
Oh, I haven't watched this
No,
yet.
it's
I need to
amazing.
watch it.
Everybody needs to watch it. And she's dating like 3 guys, but they all know the situation. She's just casually dating, and she buys this little black dress, and all of them make a comment to say, like, when they're out, like, that dress is a bit short, and she gets really offended. She's like, why? And they're really shocked that she's offended. But it's a really good episode. I think it's like episode 4. Just had Netflix kind of playing, but yeah, it was a really good episode in talking about this because she was harassed on the street. Someone catcalled her and then grabbed her. So it was like a sort of reaction of how she's coping with that, how she's dealing with that. So yeah, that's a really good.
Okay, why do men do that though? Why do men feel like what you're wearing entitles them to grab you? Are we cavemen still?
But the thing is, not to say that like clothing has anything to do with anything. When she was grabbed, she was wearing a long coat to the floor and like baggy trousers, leaving her friend's house just from like a wind down and a chit chat. So it was interesting.
It's so irrelevant. It's like saying, oh, no one's ever been raped that was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Of course they have been.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're
got
not
nothing
all
to do with
lying
it.
on the floor naked.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
got
not how it
nothing
works.
to do
Want
with
you?
it.
None
Well, I
of it.
suppose also you've got
Unless
to
you
think
say
about in the
Exactly.
context of culture and countries, how people may dress differently. So it doesn't matter. It's happening to people across the world, all throughout time, when people dress differently. So I suppose it's got nothing, which just illustrates perfectly, it's got nothing to do with what anybody's wearing, but it is all to do with an abuse of power and that kind of fun stuff. Yay. So yeah, I know, right? That kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure where this will go next year, but
I hope it
and
continues.
beyond.
I hope loads of girls keep speaking out about it because within my industry, and you'd probably experienced this as well, I only realised this from talking to other models who have gone through the same thing, but that's only when you register it. The same thing has happened to them. We don't speak about it because you're so scared about being blacklisted or put into the sin bin because, you know, if it gets back, then suddenly you're the person that you don't get the castings, you don't get booked. So
But if you don't pull them up on it, they'll never ever stop getting away with it. They're always going to carry on. You just got to have the bravery to try and just put them in their place.
Yeah, I suppose hopefully the one thing that this conversation will bring is that people will stop fearing their careers. I mean, you can never truly stop fearing something will happen, but hopefully it means that, you know, people, they can come forward and we can say collectively, especially women to women, we can say collectively, we believe you. And hopefully that will have some kind of effect. And that's the best thing, I suppose, the best possible outcome of all these guys getting just locked up and sued and everything else. And long may it continue.
Yes.
Long may it continue. May all those people just get what they deserve, eh? But yeah, so that's it for part 1. Thank you so much, girls.
thank you.
Thank you.